Elias Drake stood in the center of the vast chamber, his hands bound by glowing restraints that hummed with a strange energy. The room stretched upward for hundreds of meters, a dome of translucent material showing the swirling colors of distant nebulae. Delegates from dozens of star systems filled the chamber, their forms and shapes diverse beyond imagination. Some had crystalline bodies that shimmered with light, others had long, flowing tentacles that moved like ribbons in water. All eyes were on him, and the weight of centuries of distrust bore down like gravity. Humans were rare in the galaxy. To most, they were primitive creatures who survived on instinct more than intelligence. And yet here he was, accused of one of the greatest crimes imaginable, violating a law that had been in place for thousands of years, a law that forbade any being from entering the sector containing the artifact of Keshron, a mysterious object from before recorded time. Elias knew what was at stake. If the council judged him guilty, the punishment was clear and merciless. Death would come not just swiftly, but as a public warning to all humans and their allies. His mind raced, not with fear, but with calculation. He had faced impossible odds before, and though this was different, he would find a way through. The Speaker of the Council, a towering figure with 6 eyes arranged in a vertical line down its face, began to speak. Its voice reverberated through the chamber, deep and commanding. Elias Drake of Earth, you stand accused of entering the forbidden sector and tampering with ancient artifacts that are the property of the galaxy. How do you answer to these charges? But I did not do so recklessly. My actions prevented a disaster that would have destroyed countless star systems. I acted to protect life, not to endanger it. They always think they know more than they do. How can we trust your word? The accused shall face execution if the council deems it necessary. All in favor, raise your appendages. Then a sudden voice pierced the tense silence. A scream, raw and desperate, echoed through the chamber. Don't kill my husband. The delegates were silent, some blinking multiple eyes in confusion. Lyra, Elias said, his voice barely audible. Yes, she said, her voice trembling but strong. He saved my life. He saved my planet. You cannot let him die. Explain yourself, it demanded. Lyra swallowed hard, drawing a deep breath. This man, my husband, did not break the law to harm anyone. He entered the forbidden sector to stop a threat that none of you even knew existed. A threat that would have destroyed entire star systems, including mine. He acted out of courage and love, not recklessness. He had not expected her to speak, let alone with such clarity. But her words were not just an emotional plea. They carried evidence, a story of survival, of human ingenuity and bravery. He realized then that her courage might be the only thing standing between him and execution. One of the alien delegates, a serpent-like being with scales that reflected the stars, hissed. A human claiming heroism? Preposterous. They are unpredictable, primitive. How can we believe this? Some delegates whispered to each other, their voices a low hum. Others leaned closer, curious despite themselves. Elias watched Lyra, marveling at her bravery. She was risking everything, not just for him, but for the truth. The Speaker of the Council raised its appendage again. You claim he saved lives, yet the laws of the galaxy exist to prevent chaos. Entering the forbidden sector is not a simple matter. The artifact is dangerous. How do we know he did not make the situation worse? You call us primitive, yet it is my understanding, my creativity, and my courage that prevented a catastrophe you could not even foresee. Data logs from my planet, from other systems. All of it shows what he did and what could have happened if he had not acted. You must see it for yourselves. Don't condemn him based on fear or prejudice. Elias realized that Lyra's courage had shifted the balance, if only slightly. The speaker spoke again, its tone slightly softer than before. Very well. We will not pass judgment today. We will postpone execution until further examination of the evidence. The accused shall remain under observation, but his life is spared for now. Elias felt a weight lift from his shoulders, but he did not relax. This was only the first step. The council's judgment had been delayed, not overturned. The real challenge was still ahead, proving that humans, though underestimated, were capable of wisdom, courage, and responsibility on a scale the galaxy could respect. As the delegates began to depart, Lyra turned to Elias. We did it, she said softly, though her voice carried the exhaustion of the last hours. But this is only the beginning. They will test you, they will doubt you, and you will have to show them what it means to be human. He looked out at the swirling stars above the chamber dome, thinking of the countless worlds that could be saved, or lost, depending on what he did next. Humans were underestimated, yes, but they had something the galaxy often overlooked: determination, intelligence, and heart. Lyra reached for his hand, and for a moment he allowed himself a small comfort. "We face this together," she said. "Whatever they demand, we will meet it. Not just for us, but for all those who cannot defend themselves." But within the chamber, a seed of change had been planted. Humans, once dismissed and feared, had a chance to prove themselves. And with Lyra by his side, Elias knew they could rise to meet it. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to imagine a future where humans were not just survivors, but leaders, protectors, and heroes of the galaxy. And he knew that the trials ahead would be dangerous, challenging, and unlike anything he had faced. But he also knew that humanity had a spark the universe had never fully seen, and it was about to shine brighter than anyone could imagine. The chamber doors slid shut behind Elias and Lyra, sealing them in a smaller observation room just off the main council hall. The walls glimmered with holographic displays of planets, stars, and unknown galaxies, all shifting in real time. Here, the council had agreed to allow Elias a chance to explain, but only a limited one. Their patience had limits, and any mistake could cost him his life. Lyra glanced at Elias, her violet eyes reflecting the swirling star patterns on the walls. "You need to convince them," she said quietly. "Not just with words, but with proof. Show them what you saw, what you did, and why it mattered." This was not just about survival. This was about proving that humanity could be trusted in the galaxy's most delicate matters. "First," he said, taking a deep breath, "we need their attention and we need clarity. The council members don't know what they're dealing with. They see humans as reckless and they fear the unknown. We have to show them that we understand the unknown and we respect it. All of it shows what you did and the consequences if you hadn't acted. I've translated it so even they can understand." One wrong move could have ignited a chain reaction, destroying entire star systems. "They'll want details," Elias said. "They'll question every action. We have to make it simple but undeniable. Every risk I took, every calculation I made, every decision that saved lives, they need to see it. Show them the map, the anomalies, the potential collapse. Make them see what you saw." "Here," he began, pointing to a cluster of stars on the display. "These stars were on the verge of collapsing into each other. If left unchecked, the gravitational waves would have destabilized nearby planets, including Lyra's home world." Elias continued, "The artifact was not just a relic, it was a stabilizer built by an ancient species that understood these forces. Without it, the sector would have been lost. I didn't take it lightly. I calculated every step to prevent damage, to save as many lives as possible." He risked everything not for glory or conquest, but to protect life. Every planet, every system he saved could have been lost if he had waited for permission. "And yet I did not fail," he said. "I predicted, adapted, and acted. That is human ingenuity. That is why you should trust us, not because we are perfect, but because we can solve what others cannot." It was one thing to claim bravery. It was another to provide evidence that could not be ignored. Suddenly, one of the crystalline beings leaned forward, its body shimmering. "If what you say is true," it said, its voice echoing like glass chimes, "then your actions have saved countless lives. How can we verify this beyond your word?" "I can demonstrate the artifact's function. I can show you how it stabilizes systems, how energy flows can be redirected safely. You will see proof with your own senses." "Remember, Elias, they fear what they do not understand. Show them clarity, show them precision, show them humanity." The delegates gathered, their appendages raised in attention, and the room fell silent. Elias moved to the center of the deck and raised his hands. "This sector is unstable," he said. "Without intervention, gravitational collapse would occur here." He pointed to a dense cluster of stars. "And here," indicating another area where a gas giant's energy was building to dangerous levels. "The artifact of Keshron allows us to redirect this energy safely. It is not a weapon. It is a tool for protection." Planets shifted slightly, gravitational waves smoothed out, and stars that had been on the verge of collision began to stabilize. Gasps echoed through the observation deck. Even the most skeptical delegates could not deny the display. The serpent-like creature hissed softly, its body tense but its eyes reflecting curiosity. The crystalline being's glow pulsed with awe. Elias felt a small surge of triumph, but he did not let himself relax. This was observation, not judgment. The council's final decision was still ahead. Lyra stepped forward, translating Elias' explanation in her clear, confident voice. "You see what he has done? This is not recklessness. This is knowledge, courage, and action. Without him, countless lives would have been lost. You cannot ignore this evidence. A surge of energy threatened to destabilize a minor star cluster. Elias reacted immediately, adjusting the energy flows with precise calculations. The projection shimmered, then stabilized. The room exhaled collectively. "You see," he said calmly, "even under stress, humans can adapt. We do not panic. We observe, calculate, and act decisively. That is what saved these systems, and that is what can save others in the future. Just a little more, and they may see the truth. Judge us by what we can accomplish for the good of the galaxy." Finally, the Speaker of the Council, its 6 eyes fixed on him, spoke. "We will deliberate further. Your actions have merit, and your demonstration is undeniable. The Council will postpone judgment, but this is not a declaration of innocence. More scrutiny is required. Time to prove that humans are not only survivors, but capable of being protectors, allies, and leaders." Humans had a chance, and he would fight to show the galaxy that they were more than it ever believed. As they left the observation deck, Lyra's hand remained in his. Together, they stepped into the corridor, the hum of the starfield above echoing in their ears. Outside the council chamber, the galaxy awaited, full of unknown dangers, challenges, and opportunities. And Elias knew one thing with certainty: humans would not be underestimated for long. The council had granted Elias and Lyra limited freedom while they examined the evidence. But freedom here was relative. Every step they took was observed by drones, every word recorded, every glance noted. Elias moved carefully through the corridors of the council's headquarters, a towering spire that floated in orbit around a neutral gas giant. Lyra walked beside him, her violet skin glowing faintly in the ambient light of the hallways. "We have time," Elias said quietly, "but not much. The council will demand more. They will want to see exactly what I saw, what I experienced. And they will look for flaws, mistakes, anything they can use against me." The walls were covered with screens capable of projecting 3-dimensional maps, energy flows, and historical data from hundreds of worlds. Elias activated the controls. Streams of light appeared, representing the sectors he had traversed, the anomalies he had discovered, and the paths he had taken to reach the artifact. The council's aides and observers watched from a raised platform, their appendages moving in anticipation. Some whispered among themselves in alien languages, but the translation systems allowed Lyra and Elias to hear enough to gauge reactions. Skepticism was strong, but curiosity was beginning to emerge. Elias began. "The forbidden sector is not empty," he said. "It is alive in ways you cannot predict. Energy fields fluctuate, gravity shifts, and the artifact of Keshron is not simply a relic. It is a stabilizer. If it is removed incorrectly or activated incorrectly, it can cause chain reactions that destroy planets. I calculated every step to ensure stability." He risked his life not for power, not for glory, but to protect lives across the galaxy. The records you see are proof of that. The gravitational waves would have destroyed surrounding systems, including inhabited planets. I used the artifact to stabilize them. You can see the energy flow here. A stream of glowing light arced from one star to another, redirecting dangerous forces safely. Elias knew he needed more than maps and energy flows. He needed them to feel the stakes, to understand the danger he had faced. He activated another set of data. Holographic images of the forbidden sector appeared, showing massive storms of radiation, asteroid fields, and an enormous energy-based entity that had guarded the artifact for centuries. "The sector is dangerous," Elias said calmly. "I face storms, unstable energy currents, and creatures that could destroy a human, or even an alien, in seconds. Every move had to be precise. One error could have ended everything. And yet he succeeded. I can bring it into a controlled projection, as I did yesterday. You can see it respond to my calculations, respond to adjustments, and stabilize systems." Even the most skeptical observers could not deny what they saw. The serpent-like delegate hissed softly. "This is impressive, but it is a simulation. What guarantees do we have that the real artifact behaves as shown? And if you doubt, you may accompany me to the sector. I will demonstrate it in reality, not just hologram." He offers transparency and action. That is what makes humans worthy of trust. Then a new voice entered the room, a rival delegate from a distant system known for strict adherence to law. "Even if your claims are true," it said, They do not excuse breaking the law. You must face further scrutiny. We cannot simply accept a human's word, no matter how convincing. We demand a demonstration in the forbidden sector itself. I am prepared to go. I will demonstrate the artifact's function, retrieve it, and show its true power and potential. I will not endanger it or any system. You will witness the results firsthand. He will be accompanied by Lyra, and representatives of the council will observe every step. Failure or deception will result in immediate execution. A council ship was assigned to transport them to the sector, equipped with observation technology and communication links. Lyra and Elias spent the hours before departure reviewing the data, planning their route, and anticipating obstacles. Elias studied the holographic maps, noting the locations of radiation storms, asteroid belts, and the energy entity that guarded the artifact. Every variable had to be accounted for. Lyra looked at him, concern etched in her violet eyes. Elias, they will watch every move. You cannot make mistakes. Not for yourself, not for me, not for the galaxy. With you by my side, we can do this. As they approached the sector, the first signs of instability appeared. Radiation flares erupted unpredictably from distant stars, sending streams of energy across the void. Elias adjusted the ship's shields and calculated a path through the chaos. Asteroids the size of cities drifted in shifting orbits, forcing precision maneuvers to avoid collision. "Keep steady," Elias said calmly, though his hands moved with rapid efficiency over the controls. Lyra's eyes were wide, but she trusted him completely. The energy entity guarding the artifact became visible as a shimmering, semi-transparent mass, larger than any ship Elias had ever seen. Its presence radiated immense power, and its movements were unpredictable. Elias studied it, noting patterns and timing. He needed to act carefully. One wrong move could trigger an attack or destabilize the sector entirely. He guided the ship closer, calculating the energy flows, predicting the entity's movement, and adjusting the ship's path in real time. Lyra translated every observation to the council observers, her voice steady but tinged with awe. "Watch closely. This is human ingenuity at work. See how he anticipates, adapts, and overcomes challenges others would fail at." "He predicted it," she whispered. "He knew exactly what would happen." As the ship approached the artifact, Elias activated the retrieval mechanism. Beams of energy extended from the ship, carefully securing the artifact without disturbing the surrounding energy fields. The entity moved closer, but Elias anticipated its movement, adjusting energy flows and keeping the artifact stable. Finally, the artifact was secured aboard the ship. The energy entity receded, leaving a trail of shimmering light that slowly faded into the void. Elias exhaled, but his focus remained sharp. They were not finished. The council still needed to see the artifact's function in stabilizing the sector. "Prepare the projection," he said to Lyra. "We'll show them exactly what this artifact can do." She nodded, activating the holographic interface. Energy flows streamed from the artifact, stabilizing previously unstable stars and planets. The projection was precise, beautiful, and undeniable. The council observers leaned forward, their expressions a mix of awe and disbelief. Elias had done what few thought possible. Humans were not reckless, primitive creatures. They were capable, clever, and courageous. And Lyra, standing beside him, had ensured that the council understood both the evidence and the heart behind it. As the demonstration continued, Elias allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. The first cracks in centuries of prejudice were beginning to show. Humans, underestimated for too long, were proving their worth, not through words but through action. Lyra squeezed his arm gently. "They are seeing it," she said softly. "They are beginning to understand." But for the first time, he felt a deep certainty. Humans had a place among the stars, not as bystanders, but as protectors, thinkers, and heroes. And together, he and Lyra were ready to prove it. The journey back to the council's observation deck was not easy. Even though the artifact was secured aboard the ship, the sector was far from calm. Elias kept his hands steady on the controls, scanning energy readings, gravitational fields, and approaching debris. Lyra monitored the communications array, keeping the council updated and relaying instructions when necessary. "This sector isn't going to give up its secrets easily," Elias said quietly. "We've stabilized the artifact, but there are still dangers ahead. Every system is unstable. Even one miscalculation could trigger a chain reaction. We must navigate carefully, or it could trigger something we don't want." Elias guided the ship through the chaos with precision, anticipating each movement, calculating trajectories in real time. A sudden surge of energy erupted from a nearby star, hitting the ship's shields with a violent force. Sparks flew along the hull. Lyra grabbed a support rail to steady herself. Elias watched the asteroid field ahead. "We have to guide it, or the sector itself will fight us." Some were skeptical, but even the harshest critics could not deny the precision of Elia's actions. The human was navigating forces that had threatened entire systems for centuries, and doing so with skill and composure. Suddenly, an enormous energy-based entity appeared before them, its form shifting and pulsing with power. It had been guarding the artifact for ages, and now it moved to challenge the intruders. Its presence radiated immense heat and force, threatening to overwhelm the ship's shields. Elias studied the entity's patterns. It moved not randomly, but according to a rhythm. "It's testing us," he said. "We need to show we mean no harm and that we understand its patterns. Watch how he adapts." Elias activated the artifact remotely, sending threads of stabilizing energy into each star. The projections on the ship's display shimmered as orbits shifted and gravitational waves calmed. Lyra watched, her hand resting on the console. "It's beautiful," she whispered. "You're saving them." Elias adjusted the artifact's energy output, redirecting the flow to stabilize the star. Sparks of energy danced across the projections, and then slowly the system stabilized. The danger had passed. The observers were silent for a moment, then a soft murmur spread through the chamber. They could not deny it. The human had succeeded where many species had failed. He had navigated the dangers, communicated with an ancient entity, and stabilized systems that had been on the brink of collapse. Lyra smiled at Elias. "You've done it," she said. "They can see what humans are capable of. We have to show them the artifact's function in full, in real time." The simulation had been impressive, but this was reality. Elias had not just predicted outcomes, he had controlled them using intelligence, courage, and careful observation. Humans were not reckless, they were capable of greatness. The serpent-like delegate hissed softly, then inclined its head. The crystalline being's glow pulsed in a pattern that Elias interpreted as approval. Even the bird-like delegate, usually critical, clicked its beak thoughtfully. Lyra's translation carried a quiet pride. "You see, humans can solve problems others cannot. They are more than what you believed. The council can judge for themselves. It's not over yet, they will still deliberate, but we've shown them what humans are capable of. That is the first step." Lyra watched the displays, noting every response from the artifact and the sector. As they approached the council headquarters, Elias reflected on the journey. Humans had been underestimated for centuries, dismissed as weak or reckless. Yet here, in the heart of the galaxy, he had proven that humans could act with intelligence, courage, and precision. They could solve problems others could not, navigate dangers others feared, and make decisions that protected life on a massive scale. Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "When we return, they will judge you not as a human, but as a being capable of great things. That is the message we carry. We are problem solvers, protectors, and allies, and together we can face anything." He would have to prove not only that he had acted correctly, but that humanity could be trusted with knowledge, power, and responsibility on a galactic scale. As they docked and entered the observation chamber, the artifact gleamed in its containment field. Streams of energy connected stars and planets in a delicate, harmonious pattern. The council delegates leaned forward, watching, listening, analyzing. Elias stood beside the artifact, his posture calm, confident, ready to answer any questions and demonstrate the full extent of human ingenuity. Lyra stepped beside him, translating, interpreting, and ensuring that every nuance, every detail was understood. Together, they were not just showing proof, they were demonstrating the heart, intelligence, and courage that humans carried into the galaxy. Elias took a deep breath. "This is what we have done," he said, his voice steady. "This is what humans can do, and this is only the beginning." Elias knew that this moment could change everything, for him, for Lyra, and for humanity's place among the stars. They had faced the impossible, navigated dangers no one else could, and stabilized a sector that had threatened countless lives. And as the observers whispered among themselves, one thought became clear. Humans were not what they had seemed. They were more. They were capable of greatness. Lyra squeezed his arm, her voice a quiet affirmation. "You've done it. They are beginning to see." They had proven their worth, and the galaxy would never underestimate them again. The council chamber was silent. an almost unbearable weight pressing down on Elias and Lyra. Delegates from countless worlds filled the room, their eyes focused on the two humans standing beside the artifact. The energy from the object pulsed gently, a reminder of the incredible power and responsibility that lay before them. Every delegate waited for the final demonstration, the final explanation, and ultimately, the final judgment. Elias took a deep breath. He had survived accusation, traveled through the deadly forbidden sector, and stabilized a power that even the galaxy's most advanced species feared. But this moment was different. Here, before the Council, he needed not only to prove that he had acted correctly, but to show that humanity itself deserved respect and trust. Lyra's hand rested on his arm. "We've done everything we can," she whispered. "Now it's time to let them see the truth." "This artifact," Elias began, his voice steady and clear, "was created to stabilize dangerous regions of space. Left unchecked, these systems could collapse, destroying planets and civilizations. I entered the forbidden sector not to claim power or glory, but to prevent catastrophe." He risked everything to save countless lives across the galaxy. Yet many council members remain uncertain. Human history is filled with reckless behavior. Why should we trust that your species, as a whole, can act responsibly on such a scale? He needed to demonstrate what humans could be, intelligent, courageous, and capable of making decisions that safeguarded life. "Because," he said, "we adapt, we think, we learn, we face impossible odds and find solutions where others see only danger. Yes, humans can make mistakes, but we also act with creativity, courage, and compassion. What I did here was not a singular act. It represents what humanity is capable of when guided by reason and morality. They have the ability to solve problems no other species can, to protect, and to lead when needed. We cannot guarantee perfection, but we can guarantee effort, intelligence, and courage. We can guarantee the willingness to act in the service of others. That is what matters. Life depends on action, not inaction. Can we trust humans with it? We can work with the Council, alongside other species, to use it responsibly. He represents humanity's willingness to work with others, to respect laws, and to protect life everywhere. Humans were no longer merely reckless outsiders. They were capable partners in the galaxy's stewardship. Finally, the speaker raised its appendage. "The Council has deliberated. The actions of Elias Drake have been observed, analyzed, and verified. His use of the artifact has stabilized the forbidden sector and prevented a catastrophe that would have affected countless worlds. The Council recognizes the merit of his actions." The speaker continued, "Based on the evidence, and in recognition of the courage, intelligence, and morality demonstrated, the Council finds Elias Drake not guilty of all charges. Further, the Council acknowledges that humans, when guided by reason and compassion, are capable of acting responsibly and protecting life across the galaxy." Lyra's hand squeezed his arm, and he allowed himself a small smile. The chamber erupted in a mixture of reactions. Some delegates emitted sounds of approval, others merely observed in silence, still processing the verdict. Lyra stepped forward, her voice carrying across the room. "This is a moment for all species to see. Humans are capable, courageous, and willing to act in service of life. Judge us by our actions, not by fear or prejudice." As the chamber emptied, delegates murmuring among themselves, Lyra leaned close to Elias. "They have seen the truth," she said. "They know humans are not reckless. They know we can do more than survive. We can protect, lead, and solve what others cannot. Humans have a place among the stars now, but we must continue to prove ourselves every day. This council may have forgiven fear, but the galaxy will still test us, and we will meet every challenge." The galaxy was vast, full of mysteries, dangers, and opportunities, and humanity, long underestimated, was now part of its story. In that moment, Elias understood something profound. Humans were not just survivors. They were thinkers, problem solvers, protectors, and when needed, heroes. They had the courage to face the impossible, the intelligence to solve the unsolvable, and the heart to act not for glory, but for life itself. The Council's judgment had been made, but the journey was far from over. Humanity had been given a chance to rise, to show that it could be a force for good, a partner in the protection of countless worlds. And Elias, standing beside Lyra, knew that he had played a part in opening that door. As they left the council chamber, delegates looking on with a mixture of respect and curiosity, Lyra whispered, The galaxy is finally beginning to see humans as they truly are. And we will not let them down. And as they stepped into the observation deck, looking out at the countless systems they had helped save, Elias allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. Humanity had been vindicated. They had proven their worth, and the galaxy, wide and full of challenges, was ready to recognize them not as reckless outsiders, but as capable, courageous allies. The stars stretched endlessly before them, each one a potential challenge, a potential discovery, a potential life to protect. And Elias knew that humans, underestimated for too long, would rise to meet each one. He glanced at Lyra, her hand brushing his own. "We did this together," he said softly. "Yes," she replied, smiling. "And together we will face whatever comes next." And for the first time in his life, Elias felt the full weight and the full promise of humanity's potential.